Welcome to Reboot. So we're going to talk about a number of things tonight. The first things that we're going to talk about is basically the bad news is what you can't do and why. And then we'll get into what you can and should do and why for life, and give you kind of just a basic overview of how to get started with your reboot successfully. So you won't necessarily be starting your reboot tomorrow. A lot of people come and they're like, okay, I'm starting tomorrow morning. And unless you've rebooted before, which some of this group has rebooted before, but unless you've rebooted before, it's really a good idea to make sure that you have a lot of your food prepped and you familiarized yourself with some of the foods, because they may be different than you have used in the past. So during reboot, we are going to avoid 28 days of alcohol, caffeine, gluten, dairy, and all mammal milk. So not just cow dairy, but all mammal milk, no goat's milk or whatever. Red meat, pork, sugar in all forms other than whole fruit, and GMO oils. So we're going to go through the reasons why for each of those and what those are actually. First of all, reboot is temporary. A lot of people look at this as something that is a really strict 28 days, and it's a learning experience. So what you're trying to figure out is, am I intolerant to anything, or is anything that I've been eating particularly inflammatory to me, or not? And there are some things that you'll find out, some people are perfectly fine with gluten, some people are perfectly fine with lactose, and some people aren't. The things that you are going to learn is that some things are inflammatory to everybody. And it's those things that I like to have people continue on with avoiding for life. So even though the really strict portion of reboot is only 28 days, hopefully what'll come out of this is a lifetime of change, and you just learn to be a clean eater. So the first two things that we're going to avoid during reboot are alcohol and caffeine. So caffeine is out because, first of all, it does have, it puts your liver to work. And during any cleanse, you want your liver to be highly functioning to help to detox, help to get some of the toxins that you have taken in foods and environment prior to now, to help get them out of your body. Also, caffeine does mask appetite and energy levels that are true. So after the first 3 days of reboot, your energy levels likely will come up. Most people's energy levels come up for the first 3 days. They might be a little questionable. And once your energy levels come up to what would be normal, it's nice to actually see what they actually are without enhancing that with caffeine. Alcohol is out for obvious reasons. Again, you want your liver functioning properly, and alcohol does not fit into any cleanse. So gluten is out for a number of reasons. But basically, gluten is one of the things that we're testing to see if we remove it from your system, is it going to be something when you put it back in that you experience a problem with? So people that have been, even tested to find out if they're celiac, and that test comes back negative, that doesn't mean that you don't have some inflammatory reaction when you eat gluten. So even people that have been told, you don't need to avoid gluten by the doctor, that doesn't mean that it's not a good idea. So doing this cleanse will really help to answer that question. And for a lot of people, that's the only answer they need, whether you're celiac or not. If you find out you have an issue with gluten, it should be avoided for symptoms, but also for inflammation, which we'll get into a little bit more. So avoiding, so there are over 200 symptoms that are attributed to gluten intolerance. And it's, all of the symptoms that you think of when you think of gluten intolerance, the belly stuff. And then there's also a lot of skin issues. They can exacerbate neurological disorders, ADHD, autism, and Asperger's disease are exacerbated by gluten if there is a gluten intolerance, because it exacerbates leaky gut. So there's a whole number of reasons to take it out of your system to see if you have any of the classic symptoms yourself. So gluten continued, here's all the things that it can. So there's over 200 symptoms. They're listed in your book, and they're listed here. anything that you are consuming that you have an inflammatory reaction to, that you continue to consume, inflammatory changes over time, or inflammatory foods over time, cause inflammatory disease, chronic inflammatory disease. And chronic inflammatory diseases are like cancer, diabetes, Parkinson's. The list is enormous. So basically, a lot of people associate aging with inflammatory disease processes, which is actually not a very good way to think of aging. So the natural state of aging is not ill health. The natural state of aging is a slowing down, definitely, but not necessarily slowing down with illness, and certainly not as prematurely as what is consistently the state of affairs for particularly Americans, but really it's widespread, it's worldwide. The Western diet is largely responsible for this, this chronic disease process that we're all in. So when any organism dies, the cells of the organism become very acidic, and it stimulates the microbes and fungus and bacteria of the universe to start the decomposition process and return it to Earth. When you eat inflammatory foods, whether they're inflammatory to you or they are just inflammatory in general, it causes an acidic state in your body. And that acidic state in your body signals that same exact process as in a dead organism to start that decomposition process. So basically, by eating inflammatory foods and staying in that chronic inflammatory state, you're basically you basically have started prematurely decomposing. And that's what causes all of the myriad problems for this system and that system, basically saying, I can't do it anymore. So gluten is out because for many, many, many people, it is inflammatory, and we'll find out for you. Lactose is out, very similar. Many people are lactose intolerant and don't know it. There are very few people that are casein allergic, so lactose is the sugar in milk, and casein is the protein in dairy. Some people, as adults, don't know that they're actually casein allergic, and it's happened. I've taken probably 300 or 400 people through this program, and I've had a small handful of people that found out at 40 years old that, oh my gosh, I'm actually allergic to milk. It's not a lactose intolerance. I have an allergy to the protein, and problems solved for a lot of disease processes that were suffering. One was suffering, and she stopped consuming milk, and all of it went away. Anyway, it's very uncommon to have a protein allergy or an actual allergy to something and not know it prior to, but it is possible. But that's why we're taking out, so lactose is what we're really testing for here, and we'll get into the casein stuff at the end of Reboot when we put foods back in. If you do have a problem with lactose, we'll test you for casein too. So with lactose, there are very similar symptoms to gluten. The belly symptoms are really common. Asthma can be exacerbated, skin conditions, eczema, dermatitis, very similar to the gluten problems. One thing that's really interesting, and you'll get to find out, and we'll talk more about this when we do the reintroduction, but some people already know they're lactose intolerant before they even start Reboot. But you can actually be gluten intolerant and not lactose intolerant, and you think you're lactose intolerant. So if you are consuming gluten and you're gluten intolerant, you are automatically lactose intolerant, because the cilia in your bowels hold on to the digestive enzyme lactase, which is how you digest lactose. And if you're eating gluten and you're gluten intolerant, your body cannot hold on to that digestive enzyme. And because of that, you're automatically going to be lactose intolerant, because your body isn't going to have the enzymes it needs to digest it. So you stop eating gluten, and all of a sudden you're not lactose intolerant anymore. So when we reintroduce foods, you're going to get to find out if you already know or think you know that you're lactose intolerant, that you may not actually be, which for some people is great news, because it gives them, even though I don't like this, most people are like, I get ice cream back. But sugar is one of the other things that I want you to avoid for life. So red meat and pork are out, not because they're necessarily bad. and we'll talk about what red meat and pork isn't necessarily bad as we get into further in the program when we talk about GMOs and toxic food, toxic environment. But for the simplest version of why they're out right now, is because it takes approximately 7 days to digest them. So we want to have foods moving through your body very quickly, and the more bioavailable or the more easily processed foods are and nutrients are to your body, the quicker your detox process is going to be, and the more rapidly you're going to get those nutrients into you. Sugar is out in all forms except for whole fruit. We're going to have one whole week dedicated to the sugar talk. So we're going to talk a lot about it and why it's out. But sugar in its many forms is the most addictive drug on the planet. And I call it a drug because it actually acts like a drug in the brain. And even though we don't think of it as a drug because it's an acceptable form that all of us are addicted to, or many of us are addicted to, it is actually very addictive and creates a cycle of craving, not only a psychological cycle of craving, but actually a physical and metabolic cycle of craving as it messes with your blood sugar and insulin levels. So sugar is out in all of its forms except for whole fruit. When sugar is inside a fruit, your body really knows what to do with that. It's when the sugar is removed from the whole that your body says, "Ooh, what, I don't have a clue what to do with this besides, go directly to the bloodstream, easily available. And then the overflow is fat in the bloodstream in the form of triglycerides and then subcutaneous fat. But the insulin rush and all of the other things that go along with eating refined sugar is really a tough process for your body to go through over and over again. And again, we'll have a whole week dedicated to this, but even if you feel like you're someone who doesn't eat sugar, you don't eat sweets, you're going to find how many things have sugar in it that you didn't know, like chicken stock, that it blows your mind how much sugar you are actually getting in a day when you didn't even eat sweet food. So really, we're going to be looking to try to really read those food labels and see what we're getting and get out of that sugar cycle. Actually, before I change that, so sugar, unlike lactose and gluten, which you might be intolerant to, or might have a little inflammatory process from, sugar is inflammatory to everybody, period. So all sugar that is right spinning sugar is inflammatory to all humans. And we're going to get into what is a right spin sugar and what is a left spin sugar. But for right now, just know that the only ones that are left spin for Reboot are whole fruits. So you'll be able to have those. And that's why I like sugar out for the rest of your life. GMO oils are, we're going to have another pretty much whole week discussion on GMO oils, which is genetically modified. GMO is a genetically modified organism, so it's the oil derived from these genetically modified organisms. So just to give a brief reason, and again, we're going to have a whole week pretty much dedicated to that, but the brief reason is that when we as people eat any toxin, your body, in order to protect you, will try to put that toxin into a fat cell. And they're like little garbage cans. And it protects you from, to a certain degree, if your body can handle, if you haven't got so much that it overflows, if your body can handle it, it puts it into a fat cell to protect you from the toxin crossing the blood-brain barrier. Okay, so when you don't have any more room in this fat cell, your body will make another fat cell and another fat cell, which is really problematic when you think about the state of obesity and you think about how toxic some of our foods are. It's really no wonder when you look at that this process is actually happening. So just like humans do with putting toxins in fat cells, plants do the same thing. So when a genetically modified plant is what a genetically modified plant is genetically modified for. There are 3 different types, but the main things are so that they can handle massive doses of herbicides and pesticides without killing the plant. So these herbicides and pesticides also deplete the soil and weaken the plants. So then they also have to have not only lots of chemical pesticides and herbicides, but also a lot of chemical fertilizer. And you know that that's not coming from the compost pile. It's anhydrous ammonia, which is nitrogen. The plants take those toxins up into them. And just because it doesn't kill them doesn't mean that it hasn't taken those toxins into the plant. And then for the most part, that plant tries very, very hard to put it in its fat cells, which are then the oils. So when you're consuming GMO oils, you're consuming large amounts of concentrated chemicals. The plant itself is a large amount of concentrated chemicals, but the oil is particularly bad. So it's highly inflammatory, omega-6, and again, we'll get into a lot more of that. But just a fun fact, as I said, one of the things that they do is use the anhydrous ammonia. So to grow 1 acre of GMO corn, it takes 100 gallons of anhydrous ammonia as chemical fertilizer to grow 1 acre of GMO corn. So you just look at like what a 1 acre plot looks like and picture backing up a tanker truck and spraying, and that's just the fertilizer, and eating anything, let alone, I wouldn't even walk on that soil, let alone eat anything that was derived from it. And these are things that we just as consumers don't typically know. So GMO oils are out, hopefully for life. I'm just going to touch briefly on the Dirty Dozen. This is kind of more of a preference. So this isn't necessarily like a reboot thing that you have to, get organic this and organic that, but just so you know. So this is not talking about GMO foods and non-GMO foods. This is talking about just conventionally raised fruits and vegetables versus not conventionally or versus organic. So conventionally raised would be meaning they use the chemical pesticides, chemical fertilizers, so on and so forth. So taking GMOs aside, when you have, let's just say, a non-GMO plant, which is hardly ever happening anymore, but a non-GMO plant, like let's just say an apple. So apple trees, when they spray a pesticide on an apple tree, the tree actually takes it up and the pesticide gets inside the fruit, or the fruit takes it into it through the skin. But it's a systemic pesticide. So there's no way to wash that apple and get it off. So the fruits and vegetables that take pesticides up systemically, or really allow the pesticides to permeate the skin, the highest amounts are in the Dirty Dozen. So the Dirty Dozen are foods that really, for life, for your health, you should really avoid buying anything but organic. So the Dirty Dozen are the 12 most contaminated, and they're listed here, and apples is one of them. Yeah, apples is one of them. And then there's the Clean 13, which are when you're talking about non-GMO foods, because sweet corn used to be on this list, like corn on the cob. But corn on the cob, of course, is now all GMO. So I took it off the list. But as far as it used to be before they started genetically modifying everything to the hilt, sweet corn used to be on the Clean 13, because these plants, sweet potatoes, onions, avocados, pineapples, they don't really take things up systemically. And it's not necessarily so much about peeling them, because again, if you peel an apple, the flesh still has pesticides in it. So these Clean 13, you can quote unquote save your money if you want to buy the non-organic. Go ahead and do that, because they're safer. There's a lot of things that fall in between. So like, I don't think broccoli is on, well, yeah, actually broccoli is in the Clean 13. There are some things that you'll be like, well, wait, this isn't on either of the lists. And you could always pull it up on your phone, and there's like, probably 100 things on there. And you can see where on the list it falls. Is it like number 70 or is it number 14? So what end is it closer to, and make your decision on that. I usually, if organic is 10 or 15 cents more, which sometimes it is. If you look, I just choose organic anyway, even if it is in the Clean 13. And if it's outrageously expensive, like if strawberries that are organic are outrageously expensive, I just don't get strawberries this week. So, so it is kind of a bummer when you can't have the things that you want because they're just priced out of your range. But it really does make a difference. But as far as Reboot is concerned, this is a decision. So I just like to have that in there as an education. So away from the bad news of all the things that you can't have, now let's start talking about the things that you can have and should have, not only during Reboot, but then to continue on for life to really boost your health. So during Reboot, you can eat all vegetables, all fruits, nuts, gluten-free grains, non-GMO oils, fish, which includes seafood, turkey, chicken, and eggs. So I'm going to go over what things are, what are the non-GMO oils and what are the, oh, actually, I guess I'm going to do that now. I thought that was my next slide. So again, all vegetables. So a lot of people will question, like, can I have potatoes? And the answer to that is yes, you can have potatoes. So people get in the mindset of, you know, this no carb, low carb, points and all of the things that you kind of get caught up in from all of the past diets that you might have tried. This is not that. So feel free to eat potatoes every day if you want, sweet potatoes particularly, because they're really good for you. As we progress in the weeks to come, we will talk about during Sugar Week, beneficial eating patterns. So for life after Reboot, when you're not being super strict, there are better ways to eat, better times of day to eat different things. So, you know, eating like a big thing of pasta right before bed is probably not the best thing, but during Reboot, go for it, because all of the rules that you have thought of for weight loss and diet in the past are out the window during Reboot, and you can just enjoy eating a lot of whatever you want as long as it's Reboot food. So gluten-free grains are oats. But oatmeal is it needs to be organic or certified gluten-free. I go with the organic because it's less expensive than the certified gluten-free. And I have found absolutely no problem with it. And I am very gluten intolerant. But when it's raised organic, unless you're celiac, then you really should get the certified gluten-free. But the growing processes and growing practices and the handling of the oats is much better when it's organic, and therefore they're far less likely to be contaminated with wheat. So your gluten-free grains again are oats, rice, millet, amaranth, and oats, rice, millet, and quinoa. And there's probably one or two that I'm not thinking of right now. But those are the main ones that you're going to find to eat. As far as things that are made with them, when you're looking for like pasta, you could have corn pasta, although it's gross, in my opinion. You could have rice pasta, or there's also quinoa pasta. So, and there's actually an almond flour pasta that's absolutely fantastic. I found it Whole Foods in the frozen section. It's Kelly's or Capellini's, and they have several different almond flour, and it's delicious. But anyway, the rice and the quinoa pastas are a good option if you do want to have pasta while you're on Reboot, which most people do. Another really great thing to do is spaghetti squash, because it actually does spaghetti. So your non-GMO oils are olive oil, coconut oil, sunflower. I need my list. I know these off the top of my head, but I'm not going to be able to do it. So I don't have my list here. My slideshow changed on me. I should have all these listed out. So the GMO oils are corn, soybean, canola. Anytime it just says vegetable, rapeseed, there is a list, and it's somewhere in your book. But I'll get it to you all in your first email and make sure that I have the list, because it's just not all coming to me off the top of my head. So you can have all of the non-GMO oils, fish, and again, that includes all seafood, turkey, chicken, and eggs. If you are looking to really boost especially your initial detox process and get things to move through you quickly, or basically get things to move out of you quickly. If you have been consuming toxins and you want to kind of clean everything out really fast and get things going, to avoid the fish, turkey, chicken, and even the eggs, but really the fish, turkey, and chicken for the first 3 days would be an awesome thing to do, or to just not go real heavy on it, because again, those take a little bit longer for your body to break down than fruits and vegetables break down super fast. And grains are actually pretty darn fast too. Nuts take a little bit longer, but it's really healthy fats, and they do a lot. Actually, nuts do a lot of detoxing of their own too, so they're a detox food. And so your GMO oils, again, are detox foods as well. So so just avoiding for the first couple of days. If you want to go real strict on it, no reason to do it. If that seems too hard, then go ahead and eat them. It'll just slow it down a little tiny bit. So Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And that was for a reason. There are a lot of disease processes that we talked about in the beginning, or, the inflammatory change that cause disease. So foods actually are very, very causative for disease, but foods are actually very, very curing as well. So if you stop eating the foods that are causing the disease, that's one half of the equation. But if you start eating foods that are power foods, superfoods that are nutrient dense, with micronutrients. So most of us think of our foods in the macronutrient sense, which is, your fats and carbohydrates and protein, and people get all hung up on those numbers, like I can't have more than this many carbohydrates a day or whatever. So when you look at your food from a macronutrient standpoint, it's very different than when you look at your food from a micronutrient standpoint. Micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals. So what is that food bringing to the table besides the protein? So when you look at the vitamins and minerals, there are only 51. So only 51 vitamins and minerals that we know are important to the human body. All right. So of those 51 vitamins and minerals that we need in our body, they're all responsible in some way for every metabolic process of our body. So, and I'm not just talking like the metabolism that keeps you like burning calories or whatever, but like all of your hormone production, from your sex hormones to your adrenaline, cortisol, all of your hormones are somewhat mediated by different vitamins and minerals. So the lack of any of them is going to cause a myriad of problems, because there's only 51. There's thousands of metabolic processes that happen in your body every single second. So without any of those, or a deficiency in any of those 51 vitamins and minerals, causes eventually a knock-on effect where your system starts to break down. So take out the toxic foods and take out the foods that that are causing the inflammation. Again, half the equation. The other half is to try to boost our nutrition, micronutrition, in order to start having all of those processes work again. The way they're supposed to, or maybe work for the first time. Because even if you eat amazingly well, if you haven't been eating foods that are superfoods or supplementing with a whole foods vitamin and whole, and I'll get into that a little bit, you probably have not been getting all of the nutrients that you need. And the older we get, the more depleted we get, because there are some things that our bodies need more of as we get older, and also that just naturally decline as we get older. Like women, for example, get really depleted in iodine. Everybody gets really depleted with iodine the older we get, but women in particularly who have had children, because we give a lot of that to our children, and iodine is integral for thyroid function. So anyway, looking at our foods and looking for foods that are that are power foods, that are power packed with nutrition, is going to be part of what we're doing with Reboot. And then the other thing that we're going to do, and a lot of these foods are going to be one and the same, is looking for foods that'll pull toxins out. So what have we already done? And it's not just necessarily what are the foods that we've eaten that are toxic, but what have we been exposed to in our environments that are toxic? And that is a really scary one, because most of us can't really, none of us can get away from it. I mean, there are flame retardants everywhere you look, and all the cleaning products and everything that's, all of the car pollution, blah, blah, blah. You can't live in a bubble. So how do you get rid of some of these toxins, which are all inflammatory? Again, every single toxin that you either eat or are exposed to is inflammatory to your body. So how do we really kind of bump this down a little bit and get some of those toxins out of our body? So a lot of these superfoods that are not only nutrient rich, but they're also serve a function of detox. So let's talk about what they are. So I have several that I really love for Reboot, and I would love to have you get most, if not all of them, into your diet. So I challenge people on the first week of Reboot to choose 5 power foods to get in, and then hopefully at some point before Reboot ends, you'll try a few more, if not all of them. And not just during Reboot, but again, for your life, because these things are really integral. If you have a very healthy diet and you're eating these power foods on a routine basis, your health is just going to be so boosted. And they're all delicious and awesome and part of many of the recipes of the book as well. So my first, and I also, just as a side here, in the book, I've written where I buy them from. So in the first email that I send out, I have links to them. So the one that I buy for chia seeds, the one that I buy on Amazon.com is HealthWorks. It's the least expensive that I have found for, and they are organic, although it's not super necessary to buy chia seeds organic because they're all organic. So I think they're all probably certified organic, because chia seeds just grow really, really well and they don't need to do anything to them. So anyway, the ones that I get are HealthWorks on Amazon. So the reason I love chia seeds is myriad. One of the reasons is that it's very high. They are very high in omega-3 fats. So we're going to talk about omega-3 versus omega-6 more during GMO week next week. But when I talked about the GMO oils and how the plants take up the toxins or whatever, it changes the profile of the oil, and it makes it very high omega-6 and very low omega-3. All right. And then all of the animals that eat those GMO foods, their profile of omega-3 to omega-6 changes dramatically as well. So what's happened with all of the way that we eat food traditionally is that we've got this giant imbalance of omega-3 to omega-6, and omega-6 imbalance or too high is inflammatory. So you've got inflammation is acidic, and omega-6 and sugar. They can all go like on the same line, like inflammation, sugar, GMO oils, and acidity, this state of decomposition of the body. So eating things that have a high omega-3 ratio is going to basically kind of level the playing field a little bit. So if you were to eat, let's just say, not during Reboot, but if you were to eat conventionally raised beef, it has an omega-3 to omega-6 ratio of, I think it's 56 to 1. So 56 omega-6s to 1 omega-3 if you were to eat like beef from McDonald's. That one might be worse. But if you were to eat grass-fed organic beef that has not been fed corn and that high GMO profile or the high omega-6 profile, the ratio is actually 2 to 1. So it's much, much closer. Still not super, because you would like it to be 1 to 1. But so if you're eating all of these really high omega-6 foods, you could eat chia seeds until they come out your ears, and you're never going to bring that balance back. So chia seeds are awesome because they're omega-3, so it's going to bring that balance back. Chia seeds are also a tonic. They pull toxins out. So they're very gelatinous, and they actually pull toxins out of your body. One of the toxins that they pull out is not it's a natural, normal part of your body. It's cortisol, and we need cortisol to a certain amount, but most of us are on cortisol overload for a number of different reasons. It can be emotional, it can be environmental, but it's a stress hormone. And most of us have a lot of cortisol, and your body does a great job overnight or it hopefully does a pretty good job overnight of bringing that cortisol level down and filtering it out. And in the morning, if you do something to help your body remove it, like chia seeds, and I'll tell you how I do that, your body can get rid of some of that cortisol, because otherwise you wake up and you don't do anything to get rid of that cortisol, and you're going to reabsorb it, and you have today's cortisol and yesterday's cortisol as well. So cortisol is responsible for belly fat and heart disease. And that's kind of a chicken and egg thing. It's like, is it the cortisol that causes the belly fat, or is it that causes the heart disease, or the belly fat that causes heart disease? That visceral fat that puts the strain on all of our organs, our internal organs, is loaded with cortisol. So chia seeds are awesome for those two reasons. What I do to get my chia seeds in, they're in a lot of recipes. I use them in a ton of things. A lot of people will put them right in their smoothie, and that's great if you're going to drink your smoothie pretty fast. And we'll talk about smoothies too. If you're going to drink your smoothie pretty fast, but chia seeds, because they're gelatinous, are going to gel up and thicken up really, really quickly. So if you have too many in your smoothie and you don't drink it fast, you're going to end up needing to eat it with a spoon. So how I get my chia seeds in is first thing in the morning when I get up, I have a little glass of either lately I've been doing it with coconut milk, or just a little bit of water. And I literally have like maybe 3 or 4 ounces of water or coconut milk, and I stir it up real quick while they're still really hard, and they go right down the hatch while they're like little balls. And then I chase that with a big glass of water, because water is very important first thing in the morning, again, for flushing out those toxins. But that's going to do a lot to really get, first of all, you're going to get a lot of chia seeds into you in a very easy, quick way. And then you can go ahead and use more in your smoothies and whatnot throughout the day, or your sweet foods. Coconut oil, I have found that there is a number of places now. It used to be that coconut oil was so expensive everywhere, and Trader Joe's was the least expensive. But now, I have Trader Joe's still on here, but Whole Foods coconut oil is about the same. The 365 is about the same as Trader Joe's. They have gigantic things of it at BJ's, and it's really good quality. I just ordered some online from Nativa, which is a brilliant company for protein powder and several other things I just really love from them. And theirs is really reasonable as well. So not necessarily Trader Joe's. Coconut oil is amazing. Topically, it is amazing. Internally, it's just good stuff. It's antibacterial, antiviral, anti-inflammatory. So I would love to see you having a lot more or a lot of that in your cooking. And then also when we talk about when we do toxic food, detox foods, that'll be part of the GMO week next week. We'll talk a lot about, or a little bit about environmental toxins as well. So I use coconut oil and make a lot of my, or all of my own skincare and cleansing products to avoid taking toxins in through my skin. And coconut oil is brilliant. It's one of my favorite things to use for that. And I'll give you some good recipes for that stuff too, which is very easy and awesome. So women, actually, there was a study that I was reading. There was like a group of, let's say, 25 women who there was the women who added coconut oil. They all had the same diet. The women who had coconut oil in their diet versus the women who didn't have coconut oil in their diet, everything being the same. All of the women who had was a tablespoon of coconut oil a day in their diet lost weight, and their blood pressure and cholesterol improved. And it was like over the course of 6 weeks. I don't have all of the statistical data, but just it was good. So people are afraid to add too many fats, and but I'm doing this high fat thing and think of it as a negative thing, but it's not. It's eating fat doesn't make you fat, and fats are very important for brain plasticity and just keeping us moving moving well. So don't avoid them. Cacao is probably my favorite. They're all my favorite, but cacao really is. So cacao is raw cocoa, the raw chocolate bean. It's the most nutrient-dense food on the planet unless it's cooked. So when you hear, you know, dark chocolate is good for you, it would have been if they didn't roast the cocoa bean. But when it's raw, when it's in its raw form, as soon as it's heated above 98 degrees, the nutrient profile really starts to go down with chocolate. But when it's in its raw form, it is amazing, and it tastes exactly the same as the roasted bean would taste, or almost exactly the same. It's what you do to it afterwards that makes it taste like chocolate. You know, you have that semi-sweet baker's cocoa, and it's not going to taste any better than raw cacao, but if you do sweet things to it, then it's awesome. So if you like chocolate things, which there are several recipes in here, chocolate is going to be one of the things that you should have every day. So again, this is one of those micronutrient dense foods that I would love to see you getting at least a couple of tablespoons a day. So there's a recipe for healthy chocolates. You can make smoothies with it. The healthy chocolates are awesome. I would recommend, if you're going to try the healthy chocolate, and I would definitely recommend you do that, but I would recommend that you wait until days 4, 5, or 6 to get the sugar off of your tongue that you currently probably have, simply because it is not going to taste good right now. Like my son will not eat them, and he loves chocolate, but he's like, those are gross. But if he ever rebooted and got that sugar and all of the additives and everything out of his little system, then he would probably find that they would taste much better. And that's what typically happens. And it is sad to say that my son is one of these people that isn't rebooting, although he does a lot of good stuff. So if you don't like the taste of chocolate, but you still want the benefit of cacao, you can get cacao nibs, which is just the bean cracked up. And it doesn't really impart a chocolate flavor to anything. They taste a little bit like dirt. So I throw them in my smoothies, and you don't really taste anything at all. So if I don't want every smoothie to be a chocolate smoothie, because it's a very overpowering chocolate. If you don't want every smoothie to be a chocolate smoothie, if you want it to be a berry smoothie, you can use the nibs in it and get your cacao that way, without making it taste chocolatey. Cacao is also a mood elevator, and we all know that, right? And it has, what else was I just going to say about it? It's just all good. It has all kinds of really great antioxidants and flavonoids and good stuff for you. Almonds are great for you. All of the nuts, actually, all nuts and seeds are fantastic for you. I'd love to see you get them in. And I just have almonds on here because almonds are cool in that they decrease the glycemic index of the food that you eat them with. So they not only have a really cool nutrient profile of their own, but we're going to talk about during Sugar Week those beneficial eating patterns. And one of the things that you want to try to avoid is eating foods that have like this high sugar impact. This is, again, after reboot. You can do whatever you want during reboot, but foods that have a really high sugar impact that are going to really drive your blood sugar up. And you're not using that energy right now. So, I mean, if you're out there running a marathon or whatever, you might need that sugar rush. But if you're laying on the couch watching TV, probably not. So when you eat something that has a higher glycemic index at the same time as you eat almonds, it'll decrease the glycemic index. So it'll kind of give your body longer to work through that sugar than it would have taken it otherwise. So that's kind of cool. And some of the recipes, or a lot of the recipes in the book, are made with almonds. So almonds and dates have a very high glycemic index, but you kind of put them together and it brings that down. It makes it very good power food. Flax seeds are another, very much like chia seeds, actually, in that they have a high omega-3 profile. One thing that's important to be said about flax seeds is that they do need to be ground first. If you don't grind them in a coffee grinder, if you don't break the shell, your body can't break the shell either. So you won't really absorb them. They'll just go through and be fiber. Which is nice, but kind of defeats the purpose of eating flax seeds. So just make sure you grind them. They're gelatinous as well. They do that same pulling that the chia seeds do. So very, very similar to chia seeds. Flax seeds have to me, more of a flavor to them, and a little bit more of a texture. Well, actually, not more of a texture, a very different texture than chia seeds. Chia seeds are, bubbly like tapioca. So some people don't like that, where flax seeds they would prefer, and some people prefer chia seeds. I personally prefer chia seeds because I don't really like the flavor of flax. So it's just that one's just a, choose. You can have both of them if you want, but they both bring approximately the same thing to the table. Aloe vera is really, really cool. Aloe vera, again, is gelatinous, like the chia seeds and the flax seeds, and you can buy just the juice. And beware here, because there's a lot of juices out there right now that are aloe vera juice and lots of sugar or corn syrup and stuff. So that's not the ones that you want. You want just the straight up aloe vera juice. I buy mine at Trader Joe's. I know they have it at Whole Foods as well. At Trader Joe's, if you're looking for it, it's in a square container and it sits down underneath the bubbly water. So I'm going to tell you a recipe, and it is in the book on, I believe, page 13 for green lemonade, that will use the aloe vera gel, and you'll need that same bubbly water that's right above it on the shelf at Trader Joe's, so it's conveniently located together. So aloe vera is gelatinous. It pulls the toxins out. It's also very alkaline. So when we talked about the body being in an inflammatory or an acidic state, again, we want to bring that acidity down, and we want to bring some alkalinity into the picture. So aloe vera is very alkaline, and it kind of brings that balance back, or can help to bring that balance back and bring us back down to an alkaline state, where we're not going to prematurely decompose while alive. So aloe vera also has a number of, nutrients that are great. Its nutrient profile is fantastic. But the reasons why I like it is that it's gelatinous and that it's alkaline. So I'm going to skip ahead one superfood to the chlorophyll, because this is the green lemonade that goes together. I need to just change this and pop the spirulina out of there. Chlorophyll is amazing stuff. So I buy liquid chlorophyll, and I make the green lemonade, and I'm just going to tell you about the green lemonade now. I make the green lemonade with 2 ounces of aloe vera, or glug glug of aloe vera, approximately 2 tablespoons of chlorophyll, so again, glug glug of liquid chlorophyll, over ice, and fill the rest of the glass with the bubbly water. And then sometimes I'll do a squeeze of, I have an organic lemon with lemon oil, like a squeezy lemon, and do a good squeeze of that, and that's my green lemonade. You can do it with a splash of juice, or you can do it just like that. I like it to have a little bit more flavor than that, because the chlorophyll has a very green flavor. But if you get that, get a good squeeze of lemon in there. I think it tastes fantastic. Most people find it very refreshing. Chlorophyll, the reasons why it are in are why it's one of the power foods are myriad. First of all, chlorophyll is very, very similar in its makeup to our blood. It has magnesium, which is something that a lot of us are most of us are very deficient in. And that's the difference between blood and chlorophyll, which is the blood of the plant, is that magnesium. So when you are consuming chlorophyll, it helps your body to build, not really blood volume, but kind of, it helps your body to build hemoglobin. And hemoglobin is the oxygen carrying portion of your blood. And most disease processes, particularly cancer, do not like oxygen in your blood. So if you're increasing your oxygenation, you are depressing cancer cells all over your body, if you have any, which most of us at least have latent cells that we want to at least not interest in growing, but suppress would be brilliant. So chlorophyll also chelates, or pulls out of our body some things that we can't do on our own. Like there's no way to, like, time isn't going to get these things out, or like if you stop consuming these things, they won't just go away out of your body without something helping them out. And those things are the heavy metals, or metals in general. So arsenic, lead, mercury, aluminum, uranium. So we take in a lot of these things environmentally, and we don't even know it. Some things have come to us through our cosmetics or vaccinations, or through our water, pipes or whatever. And these metals build up a toxicity in the body and eventually our neurotoxins, when, you know, and everybody has a different level of like, how much mercury can you handle? Don't know. How much aluminum can you handle? Until you actually have a neurotoxin or a neurotoxic effect. And then, yep, you've reached your level. So there are very few ways to get those metals back out. Chlorophyll is good at it. So chlorophyll and spirulina both, so that's why both chlorophyll and spirulina are on here, chelate or remove different metals. So I'd like you to really think about having both of those as your power food regime, as part of your power food regime, and to try to chelate and get rid of some of the metals that you have almost definitely been exposed to in your life, to bring that level down so you don't reach that point where you start having a neurotoxic effect. So a list of just a few more power foods, and I'm not going to really go into great detail on any of these, but cinnamon, turmeric, black pepper. Black pepper is cool. Black pepper increases the bioavailability of the vitamins and minerals that you are eating right now. So when you eat food, your body doesn't absorb everything from it. And as a matter of fact, when you're in a very inflammatory or intolerant state in your gut, you actually absorb very few of the nutrients. So even if you're eating amazing foods, if you're eating it at the same time with something that's causing your body to go like, no, I can't digest that, you're not absorbing very many nutrients at all. When you pepper your food, it makes those nutrients really more available. So your body is really good at absorbing them quickly. So you, if pepper your food is great. Ginger is a tonic. It pulls toxins out really well. Seaweeds are loaded with iodine, something that most of us are very deficient in. Garlic, avocado, kale, cayenne is awesome. It revs up your metabolism and gets all kinds of things moving. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, amaranth, millet, which are your grains that you can have, but they're also really just loaded with iron and other nutrients that we need. Blueberries, goji berries, acai berries, maca, Incan berries, pomegranate. If you got on Amazon.com and you just put in power foods, you'll probably have 50 more that are really fantastic. And these again are things, foods and spices that are in their whole form. So there's nothing else added to it. There's no 16 other ingredients. It's their whole form, and they're all really powerful. I am a fan of supplementation, but as I am not a naturopathic doctor, I can't tell you what things I would supplement with, but I can tell you what things I supplement with. So I supplement with, and this is very important, we'll get into it when we talk about GMOs, a probiotic. And I really, really encourage everybody to consider a probiotic. Those GMOs and just our environment and most of the things that we're exposed to just every day really kill the gut bacteria. And without healthy gut bacteria, your body doesn't absorb nutrients right. The metabolic processes in all of the hormone processes are largely impeded. So getting a probiotic in can kind of bring that balance back and get things working again. And it doesn't necessarily need to be forever, but really just reintroducing that gut bacteria is very important. And then if you're starting to come down with something, or you've eaten something that's really depleted it or whatever, you can kind of kick that back up a notch. But also eating fermented foods is probiotic as well. So I supplement vitamin D even during the summer. Again, most people are very deficient in vitamin D, even if they're spending quite a lot of time in the sunshine. These are things that really, if you want to know, where you stand, going to see a naturopathic doctor and having or even your regular doctor will draw for vitamin D. But having your blood drawn and seeing kind of where you are is really interesting to know. Vitamin D is integral to all kinds of different processes in the body. I mean, all of the vitamins and minerals are important for a lot of different reasons. So vitamin D is hugely important. Vitamin C is great. I have it on there as a supplement to consider. I actually only supplement it when I am coming down with something, or which I usually that's more like somebody around me says, I have a sore throat. And I'm like, I'm taking vitamin C. I take it in a whole food form. Emergency is okay. It's 1,000 milligrams. It's not from a very good source. And it also has sugar, so you can't do it during reboot. But there are many different, and I can include that in the first email if you want the whole food version that I get of vitamin C. Magnesium glycinate is really a cool one that I take. I get quite a bit of magnesium in my chlorophyll, but I was still deficient in magnesium. And so I started taking it in the form of magnesium glycinate. This is what my naturopathic doctor told me to do. Magnesium glycinate is an easier form for your belly. So a lot of the magnesium forms can be really like laxative, like citrate of magnesium is actually used as a laxative. So there are different ways you can get CalMag. It's a calcium magnesium, usually a 2-to-1 ratio, because that's how your electrolytes for calcium and magnesium need to be. So you could do a CalMag if you need calcium as well. Again, if your naturopathic doctor tells you, or your doctor tells you need calcium, that would be a good way to get it. But magnesium glycinate is easy on the belly. Milk thistle is fantastic. This is an herbal supplement, or it's not really an herbal supplement. Milk thistle is a plant, and it is a really, really good liver cleanser. So milk thistle boosts liver cleanse function, which really, when you're rebooting, is a fantastic thing to do, or just a fantastic thing to do for life anyway, to help your liver. Basically, your liver is your oil filter of your car, and you're constantly putting in all kinds of things that you're expecting your oil filter to filter out. So sometimes you need to give it a little hand and help, give yourself an oil change. So milk thistle can help with that. Again, even though I eat a lot of iodine-rich foods, I was still deficient in iodine. So my naturopathic doctor has me on an iodine supplement. These are things that you really can't know unless you have blood testing. The 2 things that you can know, or 3 things that you can know from this list without having blood testing, is you likely don't have healthy gut bacteria, and a probiotic is not going to hurt you. You can know that you likely can help your liver out, and it would appreciate it with milk thistle, and it's not going to hurt you. And the other thing is a whole foods multivitamin. So if you feel like you're really doing a great job with all the superfoods, that's awesome. And I get a lot of superfoods in my diet every day. So I have a whole foods multivitamin that I buy, that the recommended daily allowance of this vitamin. And the reason why I say whole food, that's not from Whole Foods. They're made from food. It's just food, dehydrated, concentrated, and there's nothing added to. There's no synthetic vitamin in there at all. Most vitamins that you buy, like Centrum or any of the vitamins that you buy, or most of the vitamins that you buy at Rite Aid, come from synthetic sources, and your body doesn't know what to do with synthetic vitamins any more than it knows what to do with synthetic food, which is the problem. So taking some of those vitamins can actually be very detrimental. So a whole food vitamin, your body knows exactly what to do with food, and it can take those vitamins out. So if you feel like you're doing a great job with your superfoods and you're getting everything you need, awesome. If you feel like, you know what, I'm probably doing okay, but not the best, what I do is I have this whole food multivitamin, and the recommended daily allowance of this multivitamin is 3. I take 1. It's also less expensive that way, because mine is like $60 a month. So I'm like, well, there's 1 for Matthew, Kieran, and I, and all of us have at least that many more of those micronutrients from a really great source. And then hopefully we're eating everything else that we need. So it's not overkill. I have on the TL2 Fitness website, so which is just tl2fitness.com, I have a tab on there that says, "This is what we do." And it goes into all of the supplementation that we do and why. Because again, I can't tell you what you should do, but I can tell you what I do, and then you can make your own decisions. We also take a supplement that I actually sell called Protandim, and it is a supplement that's derived of 5 different herbs. It's milk thistle, turmeric, which is super anti-inflammatory. So whether you're going to do Protandim or not, I would love to see you taking turmeric. It's super, super anti-inflammatory. So it's milk thistle, turmeric, not black pepper, green tea extract, bacopa, and ashwagandha. So those are all really great herbs. Together, they do really wonderful things. But one of the things that it does, besides all of the things they do well individually, is it boosts your body's antioxidant ability. So we're born with like a certain amount of all kinds of different things, right? We're born with a certain amount of digestive enzymes, a certain amount of eggs if you're a female. And we're also born with a certain amount of NRF2, which is a pathway, an enzyme pathway that stimulates your body to have an antioxidant ability. So we can eat antioxidants, which, you know, counteract oxidative stress, and which is basically aging, cell aging, and that decomposition process. We can eat those antioxidants, but when you're little, when you're born, and when you're a young child, your body has the natural ability to do it. So you don't need to eat as many when you're younger, and you heal faster, and you grow, and all of the, you pull a muscle when you're 10 and it's fine in 2 days. You do it when you're 40 and you got it for the rest of your life sometimes. So and that's mostly due to the fact that NRF2 pathway has been decreased or depleted. Protandim increases that pathway back up to the state that it was when you were born, which is really interesting. So it decreases oxidative stress by 40% in human studies, by 40% in 30 days, which is really a cool thing for it to do. So anyway, if you're interested in Protandim, let me know. That's the only one that I sell. But if you wanted to get on the website and check out the other things that we do and why, that's under the tab, This Is What We Do. So before we get started with Reboot, you have to learn how to read a food label. Most people look at food labels now and look at the protein, the fat, the carbohydrates, and you're like, oh my gosh, it says 26 grams of fat, I'm not eating it. I don't want you to look at that part of it, and particularly I don't want you to look at that where it says sugars on there. So if it has 16 grams of sugar, ignore that. It's an important thing to know, but that's not what we're looking at when we're looking at a label to see, is this a reboot friendly food or not? When you're looking at the label to see, is it a reboot friendly food, you're looking at the ingredients only, not the nutrition panel. So if in the ingredients list, it has any of the not reboot friendly or not reboot approved ingredients, then you have to avoid that product. So, and you will be absolutely amazed when you're reading food labels, which it's going to be annoying when you first start grocery shopping. The first couple of times you go, you're going to be in the store. People are like, I feel like I live at the grocery store, or 3 different grocery stores, reading these labels. It does become second nature. Just like right now, you can go into Hannaford and you can grab the ketchup you use, the mustard, the mayonnaise, the cereal, the crackers, all your brands. You will eventually know all of your brands for Reboot, but it is a little time consuming in the beginning. For that reason, at the end of the book, I have a grocery store tour pictures. It's not at the end of the book. I'm sorry. It's at the end of the PDF version of the book, which you will also get. So you can have it right on your phone. You can scroll through, and it's for Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and Hannaford. It's just a few of the things that it's really difficult to find. Like, for example, it's really difficult to find a reboot-friendly salad dressing. At our Hannaford, there are 3. Of all of the salad dressings at Hannaford, there are only 3. So I took a picture of those 3 so that you guys don't have to try to, read every label. Although I welcome you to. Every once in a while, people find another one, and I'm like, yay, add another to the list. So, and also important to read the labels, even of the things that I said are safe. Just give it a quick read, because they changed them. I had a mayonnaise listed from Whole Foods, and it's no longer on there, but somebody was like, we can have this even though it has sugar in it. And I'm like, no, it didn't have sugar in it last week. So there are many names for sugar, and artificial sweeteners are also a no-no, and this should be for life because they're toxic. But so any artificial sweeteners, aspartame, ascorbate, however you say that, saccharin, maltitol, erythritol, any syrup. So if it says blah, blah syrup, it's a no. So like brown rice syrup, and there's a bunch of them. Obviously corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup, agave, sucralose, honey, molasses, dextrin, maltodextrin, dextrose, stevia, which I say is actually a great 0-calorie sweetener after Reboot, but only in its whole and raw form, because like Truvia undergoes 32 chemical processes between being a stevia leaf and becoming Truvia, which is toxic. It's just as bad as aspartame. And monk fruit nectar. Those are all, any of the nectars are also sugars. Other names for gluten are maltodextrin, unless it says it's not from a, unless it says it's from a non-gluten source, like sometimes it'll say maltodextrin from tapioca. Maltodextrin is still a no because it's a sugar. But after Reboot, if you find out you are gluten intolerant, maltodextrin is one of those tricky things that will give you symptoms, because it's typically maltodextrin is derived from wheat. So that was something I learned the hard way. Barley is gluten, and anything containing wheat or malt. Other names for dairy or other ways that they sneak it in. So they have like these non-dairy cheeses or non-dairy products, and they sometimes have casein or whey in them, which I'm like, how is it non-dairy if it has the dairy protein? But just because it's lactose free. Anyway, so some of those cheeses still have casein. There is like one cream cheese that's pretty gross, but if you really need to have some cheesiness in your life, that there's one, and it is pictured in the book that I'll send you. So that doesn't sound like appealing to anyone, I'm sure. This is just that same thing again. So before you get started with Reboot, I recommend the preparation. So I have several of the recipes and what pages they're on that are really the winners. These are Reboot. Everybody loves them. They're easy to make. They make a lot, so they're great leftovers. They freeze well. The baked oatmeal, there's like 20 different versions in the book. Well, maybe 10 different versions in the book. They're all really good. Some are a little bit more difficult than others. Like, you know, if you have to chop apples instead of just pouring in frozen fruit. But they're all relatively easy. And the thing with the baked oatmeal is you make it on, let's say, Sunday, and you've got breakfast for the whole week, and you don't even need to think about it. Baked oatmeal is awesome. It's not like oatmeal. It's more like a brownie. So you can like cut it and take it with you, which is awesome. The kale and buffalo sausage soup is definitely a huge winner. The chicken fajita soup and the mulligatawny soup are also absolute favorites. I would make one of the soups, or even two, but one of the soups before you start. I would make the oatmeal, or as you're getting started. One of the soups, I would make the butternut squash salad, or one other. If you look through the book and you're like, no, I want to make the red lentil dip, or I want to make something else that you can have as like a side dish, or with lunch salad or something like that. And then I would make at least one, if not two, of the Reboot friendly desserts. My favorites are the brownies and the caramels, which is why they're on there. The desserts are typically frozen. So you make them and freeze them. And that way you've got them. Like the caramels are really, really soft. So you almost have to freeze those, and then you can eat them right out of the freezer. It's really important to have a few sweet foods, sweet things made up ahead of time, because, you know, at midnight when you're feeling sorry for yourself, you can have 2 caramels and you're going to be fine. And feel free to do that during Reboot. I would get on and order some of the more difficult things to find on Amazon. So those things being cacao, chia, and chlorophyll, particularly the cacao, the chia and chlorophyll. Again, actually the chia is pretty important too, but I'm hoping that you'll do chia and chlorophyll, but the cacao is in most of the recipes. And actually the chia seeds are in a lot of them. There are condiments that are absolutely fantastic, and they're all Reboot friendly. It's difficult to find them. They have a few of them at, and that's new salad dressings too, that they have at Hannaford. They're by Tessa May, or Tessa Mays. They're in the refrigerator section. They do have a few of the salad dressings at Hannaford now. They have more of a selection at Whole Foods, but if you want other condiments, they have ketchup, barbecue sauce, buffalo sauce, mayonnaise, chipotle Chesapeake mayonnaise. They're all really good and they're all Reboot friendly. I would just get on tessamaze.com and order them. You can do like a multi-pack, and their teriyaki sauce, everything is Reboot friendly and it's all really good. So if condiments are important to you for variety, or just because condiments are probably one of the most difficult things on Reboot because everything contains sugar or milk or both, or gluten. So that I would really recommend getting on and doing that. And if you have a buddy rebooting with you, the shipping and handling is, probably like $8 for no matter how big your order is. So if you share it with a buddy, that's always a good way to do it. So make sure that you get some other staples in the house. So get some, nuts and some, you can get blue corn chips, get a few things, your fruits and everything. So get everything together before you start rebooting, so that you don't get to work on Tuesday and feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough food with me and I can't do anything. And then you're going to go over to Dunkin' Donuts and that's the end of Reboot for the week. So just really be prepared. It's really not that difficult. Your family will likely like all of the things that you're making, so you're not going to be cooking things for everybody. I call it with, Matt does Reboot plus cookies because he eats all the food that we eat plus his food. So there's really, I'm not cooking 5 different things. It is a lot of prep though. I won't lie. It's definitely, especially if you are not a person who is used to cooking, it's definitely a lot of prep to get started. But again, you're kind of batch cooking. So if you do the majority of, like a couple of big things on Sunday, get like 3 or 4 things done, and then you just do regular meals throughout the week. And that, big soup is going to be your supplemental thing or whatever. So, I mean, you can still have, make a spaghetti sauce that doesn't have any sugar in it and do gluten-free pasta. So you can still have spaghetti. You can still make, grilled chicken and a baked potato, or you can make home fries with chicken sausage, as long as you read the sausage and make sure it doesn't have sugar. Most of them do. So, make home fries with sausage and eggs and have that for dinner. And that's what I had for dinner last night. That's why that came to mind. So you can do so many things. Most of your grilled foods, all your grilled vegetables, is, not a steak on the grill, but any chicken, fish, all of that. So it's really pretty easy and probably not all that much different than you've been eating. It's just really being cognizant of making sure that those bad ingredients or not Reboot friendly ingredients aren't in there. And then the only other thing I have to say about Reboot is that, 2 more things. One is, don't feel like you need to limit yourself. If you are hungry, eat. Even if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm eating so much. The first couple of days particularly, you probably will want to eat a lot. You'll go through the detox stuff that's going to make you a little hangry. And I guess that's the other part of this that I wanted to say. Most people don't start rebooting until Sunday or Monday, and where we are meeting on Wednesdays. If you do start on Monday, by Wednesday, you are probably still not going to like me all that much. The first 3 days of Reboot are usually difficult. So you might experience headaches. Some people experience nausea, usually low energy. Best things to do to get through that are to eat as much as you want, because that makes you happier, and drink a lot of water. If you're a coffee drinker, again, you probably will experience some headaches, or you may experience some headaches as you get the caffeine out of your system. But to replace the ritual, you can do herbal teas. So baby yourself. If you're feeling like, take a book and go take a bath or something, do something special for yourself while you're going through the 3 days of I'm not going to say misery, but the 3 more difficult days. And on day 4, you really are going to start feeling better. Exercise is a really, really great way to kind of move some of this through you too, especially on day 3. If you exercise at like 4 o'clock on day 3, it is going to be like an amazing shift where all of a sudden, that's what I hear from everybody, is like the fog lifts. And then on day 4, you're going to start having clarity. Your brain clears up, your taste buds change, your mood should get better, and your energy should get better, and everything will be honky-dory for the rest of Reboot. All right? So I'm just going to end this and then ask if you have any questions.